Okay, you might be saying, what the hell is this mess? If you've seen the HO layout in the past, you know that it looks a little more organized than this, with the Lionel stuff over top of it. This is a deconstructing, not video how to do it, but just explaining what I'm going to do. This office is about to be taken down and be the site of a future spare bedroom, and the room next to me, which is out these doors to the right, will be where the layout's going. These floors are in really bad shape. I need to be redone. Closet needs to be fixed. Walls need to be patched up, ceiling painted. So that'll be an opportunity to do this. A lot of the layout in the past 2 years has started to warp because of my poor woodworking skills or lack of woodworking skills. I made most of this on floating shelves made of extruded foam and shelf brackets. And then there was a lot of stuff added as an afterthought. This peninsula with the turntable was just put on top of shelves in the middle of the room. So while there's plenty of organizational shelving, there's not a lot of place to walk in here. The room's basically a 12 by 12 foot bedroom. The room next door is 9 feet wide, which sounds narrow, but it's 18, almost 20 feet long. It's one window instead of two, so it's a little bit better for a design for a model railroad and an office. This room just has too much traffic going through it to where it damages a lot of stuff. The shelves got warped, and there's too many duck under or lift outs. I don't mind duck unders when they're high, but this is a 4 foot high shelf, and the lift outs just make it where after a couple of years of swelling and temperature extremes, it just becomes too much to run. So, and of course my cat is hanging out on the floor here. Get off my foot, buddy. Yeah, we're going into the next room. All right, so it'll probably take me a long time to take a lot of this down and rebuild it, but I will rebuild it better. Meanwhile, as we go past this hallway here into the other room, this room has already been redone, and those are not my guitars, but they will be coming off the wall and going into the other spare bedroom. For those of the rest of my family who does play musical instruments, I do not. I always wish that I learned, but it's never too late, right? The walls here are painted with Safari Vest eggshell, so I'm going to keep the fascia also under that color. I'm going to try to keep it a little cleaner. Like the cabinets and shelves will match this time. Instead of adding stuff as an afterthought, I'm going to plan it from the ground up. There's already some cheap white trim that's placed around. You're not going to see much of that. The floor is the new vinyl flooring that we put in. It's kind of you can't really tell with the coloration here. It's a gray, almost two-tone. It's got black running through it, or dark, and some white. I like it. The closet, which has my golf stuff in it, and some other things. That's going to remain a closet this time. I'm not going to stuff it really much more than that because I have plenty of storage. The doorway will be still open this way. I'm not going to mess around with the doors. I'm going to put this closet door back on. There's going to be a duck under here, but the O-gauge Lionel stuff is going to be run at whatever the height of that door is, 6'9" or something like that. So it's going to be up above that, maybe 6'10", almost 7 feet near the ceiling. So it's going to be an around the room O-gauge Lionel tin plate track that's way up above the door, kind of like the other one, but even higher. The HO layout's going to be at around 5 feet, which if you look at that light switch, it's a couple of inches above that, almost right through this mirror, which isn't going to be here. And for anybody basically under 5 feet, which would equate to not too many people, but it's easy to duck under that or stoop under it and to get equipment in and out. but it's not going to be a hinge. It's not going to be a lift out section. And it's going to be very little terrain there. It's just going to be easier to work with. Also, the closet, it's going to be run somewhere just below that area where my finger is. So I'll be able to get in and out of the closet without much problem. It'll be an around the room. I'm standing where the peninsula is going to be, about a 4x4 section, and then it's going to go over top of the safe, over top of the cabinets, right through where those guitars are. The rail yard will be about right there in front of that window, and it'll come around the room where I'll probably do a mountain scene over here, put those doors back on. A lot of shelves and cabinets are going to go underneath this area, and that's one of the advantages. I know some people say 5 feet is too high for a layout. Honestly, it'll be 58 inches, not 60 inches, but I want it that high because I like to run it at eye level. Now, I'm barely 5'8", so for me, looking at it at eye level with narrow foot wide to 2 foot wide, 18-inch wide shelves, if somebody smaller needs to see that, they can come up and stand on step stools. And I'm going to make the bench work a lot more solid up into the walls on every stud. So I'm going to do an open grid design this time. I'm just going to follow what I should have done in the beginning. My skill level 10 years ago, 20 years ago was a little bit less than it is now. Not to say it's really much better. It's just I keep learning from my mistakes. The open grid design allows me to change terrain easier. I can access wiring easier. I can still use the extruded foam and the plaster tricks, but I can keep it really lightweight, and at the same time, I can get electronics and other things up inside these areas instead of a big flat billiard table of a layout going right through wood and foam. I'm finding that it's just difficult to work with that. And I'm always in a rush to get to the terrain, the building, the models, and that's my problem. I'm not in a rush to do carpentry and electrical work and ballasting, which I hate as well. But aside from that, if you build it right from the ground up, which I've already been told this by more experienced people than I, then your problems will be less as you go on. Well, I did not listen, and now I'm going to finally do this because I have nothing but time, right? So, what's the rush? I did put, I actually didn't have it done, but the guys that put the floor in put this, it's an LED. You can change the color temp. I put it on 5000K. I think it's daylight white, something like that. It's a lot easier to see in here now because it was really dim incandescent bulbs in here. It's darker over here. This lamp's not going to be here, but I will do overhead LEDs. I'll probably utilize LED light strips. I was moving toward that with the other layout, as those of you that saw the lighting video I put out a while back. But now with the overhead valance and the fascia in between, I'm going to have a lot more LED colored temp controlled stuff. Since now, compared to 10 years ago, the technology just seems to be so much better and easier to hide things behind the valance. So that'll be nice. So now that the walls are done, the trim's done, the floors are done, and the lighting here, anyway, it's time to move back in and get the bedroom moved into the other room. The hardest part now is deconstructing all that bench work, throwing out a lot of things that are going to be trash. But anybody that's had a railroad knows, a model railroad knows that the expensive stuff is the rolling stock, the engines, and the track, which I do not want to destroy in the process, so I need to take some time to take it apart. The foam and the other stuff, I'll save some of it, but it's just going to make a mess. I'll start from scratch with that. The only other thing that worries me is getting the backdrop off of the walls, because that photographic backdrop, some of it was really expensive and hard to get. So we'll see if I can make it work, and if I can't, I'll just have to save up and buy some more of it, because I do have some longer runs here. In the other room, I didn't have any runs longer than 8 or 9 feet of backdrop. Here I have places that are almost 20 feet long, and I'm going to have to find a way to hide them with seams, or the seams or mirrors or trim or something. So we're approaching 10 minutes here with this, so I'm going to stop what I'm doing stop filming and go back and start to get some of the rolling stock put in boxes and other things put away so I can begin the slow and arduous process of moving in. And yeah, well, that concludes today's video here, less than 2 weeks before Thanksgiving on 2021. My second layout that I built was back in 2012. I believe it was the same year Hurricane Sandy hit here in New Jersey. So that's what I'm thinking, 2012. My first layout was long before that. This is actually going to be my fourth. And if you count 5, really, because of the garden G-scale stuff outside, which is the only thing still running right now. And we're soon approaching the winter, so it's getting harder to run it out there. It's getting pretty cold, but I'll start winterizing and cleaning out there. I have some work to do outside as well. But for now, you know, when the weather gets nasty, we'll start to get this stuff done. So I'm rambling at the 11-minute mark here. I'm going to shut it down and post this as part 1. Should call it part 0 of the model railroad rebuild.